Planet Crafter is now available for you to go and buy on Steam Early Access. It's around £13 something with a little discount on its launch week. So go and give it a shot if you like the idea of terraforming a barren red planet into something green and lush. This is a very survival light game. You won't necessarily need to worry too much about enemies and creatures attacking you. It is a bit more of a chilled experience. You'll be gathering resources, getting technology and pretty much generating enough power, energy, heat, oxygen to make this planet into something lush. I've played it a couple times now over the last year in betas and alphas that I was given access to, as well as demos, and now the full version is here. Not much has changed in terms of the core loops, but they have added a bunch more biomes, new technology and new ways to access and gain some of that technology. So in the first few stages, this isn't going to be a let's play video. I just want to give you what I found interesting, going through, gathering stuff and actually seeing what kind of technology we could get to. This is the core loop, running around and harvesting some of these small little pieces of iron, ice, as well as titanium and other kind of minerals. These are the things that you're going to be combining to make your solar panels, your windmills, your heaters, and all sorts more. The game is effectively very simple. You only have around 6 or 7 of these kind of resources that you can find, and you will get some more rare ones that you have to explore some of the wreckages that you can see in the distance. These wreckages can also be a good place to get more of the stuff that you need. The game gives you a light tutorial showing what you should be building to get started, and it's all about numbers. But before we get to that, it is the basics first. Crafting stuff that's going to help us, like having a torchlight, like getting water canisters and oxygen canisters so we can explore more. Whenever you step back into your pod, you won't need to worry about oxygen anymore. It gives you a refill, but you will need oxygen to go and explore some of them wreckages. You can also get backpacks that will give you more, as well as more inventory space. In no time at all, you will be gathering a whole bunch of these items, crafting boxes to store them in until you've got enough to then go and start up your own base. The base construction is done in compartments, a bit like Subnautica in the past, where you literally just put pods down and then you can go ahead and expand, putting pods on top of each other, eventually unlocking inside ladders as well as walkways and stuff on the outside. You'll have a selection of stuff that's already unlocked, and to get more blueprints to craft new items, you're going to need to start actually raising either the temperature of the planet, increasing its oxygen level, or definitely getting ahead with some other resources. As I said, to help do that, you'll be exploring some of these wreckages. Some are small, some are much larger, and you even come across random cases of stuff in some of these areas too. And you can see here we've got seeds. We also get special kinds of food stuff that we'll also be able to grow once we get the technology. There is a kind of slight event that happens with meteor storms. Now, as far as I know, if you get direct hit by one of these, I don't know if it actually hurts you, but it certainly does give you an extra bonus of stuff. Effectively, this is how you get new items dropping. So you'll get more iron ore deposits, ice, titanium. These will all start appearing more randomly once you've had one of these storms appear. These happen pretty frequently as well. It can be pretty gnarly, especially when you're running out of oxygen, whether or not you're going to get killed by that or maybe a meteor. The game does come with a bunch of different game modes. You can play it hardcore, you can play it that you will need to lose all your stuff if you die, or you play it the way that I'm playing, that you lose just some of your items when you die. You can also play it completely creative as well. If you don't like the idea of survival at all, then you can just go ahead and get the resources to build it up. A bit like an automation game, something akin to Satisfactory. Ultimately, that's what this game kind of feels like, albeit a much stripped back version. It isn't really got the automation in the early stages yet. It's more about just getting the numbers up and getting the right technology in so that you can start changing the landscape. And so one of the main features of that is generating enough power so that that will then supply to some of the crafting stations and other items you're making that will either generate heat like the drill that I've got on the floor there, as well as then start getting our food and oxygen kind of growers up. I decided to make the base a bit larger, and everything pretty much costs at least 1 iron and then various different resources or minerals. Before you know it, you will have a small little base going, little cubes, and you can put them in any design you want. They'll automatically open up a pathway to the next cube. You don't actually have to put any doors in or anything. You only really need that one door the first time that you place something to get in and out of your base. You then got to decide to start where to put your screens. These are important. You'll be coming back to these over and over again to see how the terraformation number's doing. And that's the one that's at the bottom there, the TI number. That's a combination of heat, oxygen, as well as pressure, and that's what all of the technology that you're going to be crafting and placing is going to hopefully raise up, so that will start changing. The first stage is to make the sky blue. Now it's a big number, it's like something over, I swear, like 1 million, so you are going to have to spend a good bit of time. In 2 hours I was nowhere near that kind of number. As said earlier, you will gain new technology. These are the blueprints for items that you'll be able to get, and they're based on your oxygen level being higher, your heat level being higher, your pressure, and the overall terraformation number. And you can see there, it will tell you exactly what you need to get to the next one. So if I get my oxygen levels up, I'll be able to unlock an indoor ladder, and then after that there's a next generator or heater, and so forth. In a way, it's more of a farming game than any other. It's not fully automation, it's not a full survival game. You're literally farming these numbers, these elements, the pressure, the oxygen, the heat, and you've got to generate it as much as possible. So that's what you're effectively doing, creating big massive windmills so that you've got power to power up everything, and that's a balance that you have to be careful of. And then you're obviously trying to make sure you get as much oxygen going, so that means putting as many of the pods that can have some of the seeds inside, and that will start generating more. They all come with different upgrades that you'll again need lots of resources to get to. And each one's going to increase an output. So obviously putting these oxygen things down means that when I get the next upgrade, I might be able to get nearly 4 times as much oxygen generated. And eventually you'll get to the point where you're upgrading everything, placing new ones down and kind of forgetting about the old ones, or maybe using up some of your supplies just so that you can craft everything you can craft until you've got enough to start making the more advanced versions. It's very simple, there's no catalysts to mess around with, you're not going to be modding anything so far in the early stages anyway. There's nothing you can really do to adjust the speed, it's more about just having volume. So as many of the oxygen growers as possible, as many heaters as possible, and then as many drills. Some of the equipment that you need to craft does rely on certain minerals that just won't be found nearby. You may need to go and explore some of the caves or some of these wreckages. These are the wreckages that you'll be going into, and you've got to make sure you've got enough oxygen to get back and forth. Likewise, you need to maintain your water as well as food. That is indicated by your heart. As soon as you eat something, it will replenish your health, and that will continually go down. So it's effectively your food. Some of these wrecks can be pretty large, and you explore them by going up and down some of the ladders and exploring some of the deeper shafts. And some of you may need to actually get certain equipment so that you can remove pieces that are blocking the way. Effectively, you create modding chips that will go onto your device, and you should be able to go ahead and remove them. You'll come across things like iridium, extra aluminium, lots of seeds, lots of food items, as well as super alloy. Now some of this stuff can be found more naturally, like uranium and other places, but you are going to have to explore further and further, and so that means making sure you've got more upgraded equipment, and then obviously still got some water and oxygen supplies as well as food. Apart from the wreckages, I didn't really venture too far out, other than some of these caves that were nearby that had a lot of the super alloy in them, as well as a chest that did contain some more resources. And they're pretty cool. I would love to see definitely more variety in the biomes going forward, and I'm pretty sure that'll happen. As I said, they added 4 more biomes to the early access to make it very different from the actual demo they've had. And I'm really conscientious that this is made by just literally a 2-person team, so it's not going to necessarily have big huge features or massive amounts of stuff that you might expect. It won't take you long before you've got enough power supplies, you're getting more drills and your base is expanding, before you probably hit a bit of a wall while you're waiting for your numbers to kind of rise. That is pretty much the loop. You place and get as much technology as possible, and then once you're waiting for stuff, you go out and get more resources ready for the next time when you can craft some of the new stuff. Before you know it, you'll have a base filled with heaters, growers and much more, hoping to get to the food grower stage, because if you're playing this on hardcore mode, it's going to be an extreme challenge. You'd have to know exactly what you're doing, otherwise you will just simply die, because food is probably the hardest resource to get that I found in the early stages, as the food grower itself is locked behind a certain level. You'll have to do many trips to the main wreckage that you probably come across when you spawn, as this has got a whole bunch of chests that you just simply won't be able to pick up in one go. And of course, as I said, lots of resources pretty much respawn every time there's a meteor strike. Maybe they respawn on their own, but that's what it felt like. That was the whole mechanic of the meteors. After an hour and a half, I soon had the next set of stuff upgraded so that I could then go and get even more. So the Veg Tube 2s, these are bigger versions, they're going to give me 4 times as much oxygen. These kind of upgrades do cost more in electricity, so you are going to have to balance that and make sure you've got enough power, but there was never any moments where I was a bit unsure if I would have enough. Like, it will simply stop working. You then just go and put another solar panel down or maybe another wind turbine. There were some points where I was desperate for the next stage to unlock, so I would literally just sit there and see the numbers rack up on the screen. And looking ahead at some of the stuff I would be able to unlock, like rocket ships and much more nuclear technology and a whole bunch more base building parts, as well as huge amounts of upgrades for all the stuff that I've already done. There's a lot here, like absolutely. To get to the end stages, it will take a good amount of hours and time generating enough energy, enough oxygen to get there. Started to expand my base upwards, so I had a ladder that went up to the pods above, and I'm sure there's going to be some really creative designs with the pod base format. I haven't come across anything that I've seen from the developers' plans that there's going to be any kind of other dangers added to the game, like enemies or aliens and stuff. It does seem like this is the main loop, like it is more of a chilled experience, just about you surviving when you play it on that game mode or some of the harder ones. There's no guns, there's no kind of big technology like that you'll start unlocking. It's all just geared towards increasing the productivity of the planet so that it can terraform. I eventually got the food grower unlocked and I finally could do something with all the seeds, and that would mean that I had a full steady supply that I'd be able to pretty much craft food, water and oxygen whenever I needed it. And there we go, that is my 2 hours in the game. As I said, I didn't really want to do this as a let's play because I'll be honest, it's just a lot of me going, what is this? Oh yes, this gives you an extra 3 times oxygen or 3 times energy. And I felt like that was kind of be boring. It's definitely a game I would say to play rather than necessarily to watch. So hopefully if you enjoyed my rundown of the first 2 hours, if I get a chance, hopefully this weekend I will do another rundown like this where I'll play it for a big chunk and give you the heads up of what I ended up crafting. In the end, I had a communications tower, but I still need to set up a satellite. I had more or less good functionality with the food, the oxygen and the water, as I said, but I was still very, very far away from that first real milestone of turning the planet blue. It was certainly a chilled experience. If you like the idea of this, go and give it a shot. As I said, it's pretty cheap. Supporting little indies. I think they've got good plans. They've shown during their early kind of demo phases and how much they've added that they're willing to put a lot of content into the game. So I think the early access period will go well. I do want to sink in at least that first milestone before I do a full review. But obviously if a game without real combat doesn't appeal to you, don't buy this and don't assume it's going to be just satisfactory. Like I said, it's more of a farming game where you're just generating numbers, and that can be satisfying, but it isn't that full-blown automation that you might think. And that's it. Until next time, Ratbags, I will catch you later.